In anticipation of this Halloween episode, our intrepid Scandal Sheet host, Thad, has spent months attempting to locate a genuine vampire to interview, and his efforts have finally paid off. In order to avoid attention, they meet in an out-of-the-way motel in York, Pennsylvania.
Okay, my digital recorder is rolling. This is Thad Helsley of Scandal Sheet and the New York Inquirer. And today, I have the unique and great privilege of interviewing an authentic vampiress. Miss, would you mind introducing yourself?
Yes, my name is Susie.
Susie?
Were you expecting something more exotic, like Countess Anastasia Beatrice Fedora Dracula?
I guess so. Something, Transylvania sounding at least.
Sorry, dude. Susie's all I got for you.
Okay, well, you know what? No worries. We're breaking stereotypes here, so good for us.
Great!
So, Susie, most people believe that vampires, like yourselves, are immortal and therefore probably really old. Now, you look like you're in your early 20s to me, but if you don't mind, how old are you actually?
Good call. I was born in 1790 and I became a vampire in 1814 when I was 24. And when you become a vampire, you are basically frozen into that age for eternity. So today I'm over 200 years old.
Actually, that doesn't sound so bad. To be age 24 forever?
On the surface, sure. But we haven't gotten to the drawbacks yet.
Okay, what are the drawbacks?
Ah, shit!
How could anyone find us in this fleabag dump?
On your honor? I mean, Susie, are you in there?
Can you hold on a minute? I'm not decent.
Who the heck is that?
It's my Uncle Vlad. He watches me like a homecoming dance chaperone. He's such a pain.
Vlad? You don't mean Vlad the Impaler? The original Count Dracula?
Susie, you open this door immediately.
I said in a minute! Are you freaking deaf or something? Yep, that guy.
What's he gonna do?
He's probably gonna kill you. Sorry about that. Uncle Vlad, so nice to see you again. It's been so long, like almost 12 hours.
On your honor. Oh, I mean, Susie, you know the coven rules against talking to reporters. We vampires are a secret society.
Secret? You and that author, Bram Stoker, outed us in 1897, and now more people know about us than Batman and Spider-Man. We're a $1 trillion franchise. In fact, be honest, how many movies and TV shows have you been depicted in?
It's in the hundreds. I've honestly lost count. I've lost count.
That's exactly what I mean.
I should mention, I'm still sexier than Tom Cruise, and I'm 600 years older than he is.
Excuse me, can I say something?
No!
Look, Susie, I want you to come back to the coven and live a normal vampire life.
I don't want to live a normal vampire life. I want to be a celebrity like you are, Uncle Vlad. I want to be the toast of the town and get the best tables at the top 5-star restaurants in New York, and LA, that serve plasma. And I want to suck from the very best necks and the not so best necks in Hollywood. Even Zendaya and Jenna Ortega. Death to Zendaya!
Yes, but let me remind you, I have been sole family celebrity for 128 years.
I get that, but was that supposed to last forever? When do I get a turn to be the hotshot?
Well, as I am immortal, I was sort of expecting, yes, forever, as long as I'm still with CAA.
Hey, kids, I think we're at an impasse here, and there's only one more thing left to say.
Live from York, Pennsylvania, it's
Halloween night!
True crime,
Sex.
Political conspiracy.
Celebrity gossip.
murder,
UFOs.
Crooked officials.
The occult.
assassination,
Courtroom drama. Rape.
Corporate scams.
Scandal Sheets. Hello, everyone, and welcome to Scandal Sheet. My name is Thad Helsley, and today, with Halloween upon us very soon, we're going to examine the most enduring and popular of all folklore monsters, vampires, and specifically the OG himself, Count Dracula. Now, why is that a scandal? Well, stay tuned and find out. And to help me open the coffin on this subject, I am joined by my horrifying co-host, Anuranda. Anuranda, how is it going?
Good evening. All right, let me take this off.
Okay.
Hope everyone enjoyed that little scare. Welcome to the podcast, everybody. I'm doing well. How are you?
Good. So, Anuranda, you and I disagree on a lot of things, but one thing we are in sync on is our love of the Halloween holiday. Isn't that true?
Hell yes. I freaking love Halloween. Halloween is my favorite holiday just because we didn't have it in Kenya. I mean, I'm sure they celebrate it now, but back when I lived there, we didn't have it. So when we came here, it was like that one time that I could just be super goofy, super creative. Because, I was naturally a very goofy kid and, I'm a goofy adult now. But back then I was like a really goofy kid and I just really didn't fit in. So Halloween was the time that I could really just be myself and be creative and, and my mom like really, really fosters that even now, but especially back then growing up, she just kind of let me do whatever I want to do. So I really love Halloween. And of course, candy. Come on. Psh. You get all the candy that you want. So
now, in the past two Halloweens since you've been co-hosting this podcast, you've told our listeners that you're not the kind of we're not talking about you as a kid. You as a young adult, young woman, you wouldn't show up at a costume party as a princess or a sexy nurse or a French maid or anything like that. Instead, you would show up with like an axe in your forehead or as a zombie or something else that showed off your professional horror makeup skills. So I'm just curious what you're planning for this Halloween.
Well, I actually am thinking of doing a little bit of, maybe a little bit of both. So my company has a Halloween party, so I'm going to be dressed as
a little bit of both of what?
So a little bit. So I'm going to be two things. Sometimes I'm two things for Halloween.
Okay.
Depending if there are more parties, I won't be the same thing.
So you're going to be a little more conservative for the company party, maybe.
So I was thinking of being part of like a biking gang. I don't know. I have to play around.
Like a Harley rider chick kind of person?
Yeah.
Okay, gotcha.
Like something cool there. So I'm just playing around with some ideas in my head. And then the other one, I might actually surprisingly be Jasmine from Aladdin.
Okay.
So not very gory, even though I have seen some really cool makeups where they've showed, someone did this makeup. I don't know who it is, but anyways, someone did this makeup where she was half Jasmine and half Raja, the tiger. So that was kind of cool, but I'm not going to do any of that. Just going to do a traditional Jasmine. So we'll see. Yeah,
the Jasmine girls that come as Jasmine that I can recall, they were pretty cute. Those outfits were pretty good.
But it's not going to be like scantily clad. Some people go a little nuts.
Do they? Okay.
And
I guess those are the ones I'm thinking of.
They get a little nasty. It's not going to be like that. It's still going to be cute. And she's going to be, she's going to be a Disney princess, which is going to be very different for me because normally I don't really do that. But you guys can probably check out some of my costumes and you'll see that I normally go for the more unique looks.
Well, I was going to suggest that each of us post, on the Scandal Sheet social venues, post a picture of one of our favorite costumes as an adult, not as a little child.
Oh, yes.
So you already sent me one, so I know what yours is, and
I actually have another one too. Well, I have a couple. So I
Okay.
don't know. I'll send you a couple and you can let me know which one
that
you
sounds
like.
good. That sounds good. Okay. And of course, no episode of Scandal Sheet would be complete without our artificial intelligence engine, Bernice. Bernice, happy Halloween in advance.
Thank you. I've even already figured out my costume for this year.
Ooh, really, Bernice? What is it?
I'm going as a NVIDIA computer chip.
Bernice, I thought you actually are a NVIDIA computer chip.
Exactly. I don't have to buy a costume.
So, Anurata, back to our topic of vampires, and specifically the 1897 book Dracula that propelled these legendary undead creatures into great international fame over the last 128 years. Bernice, can you get us started? What are vampires and where do they come from?
Certainly. A vampire is a mythical creature that subsists by feeding on the blood of living mammals, preferably humans. Legends of blood-drinking demons have existed for thousands of years throughout the Eastern Hemisphere and are considered precursors to modern vampires. However, the folklore for the entity known today as a vampire originates almost exclusively from early 18th century Central Europe, particularly Transylvania. Vampires are revenants of evil beings or witches, but can also be created by a malevolent spirit possessing a living person by being bitten by a vampire themselves.
So, Anurata, where do you stand on these so-called vampire creatures? Are they real, just a legend, or something else entirely?
So I do feel like it did stem from, a real person, but obviously the things were exaggerated, and because he was so private, right, people kind of, started making up stuff like, oh, he can't come out in the light because of blah, 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 and he does this, and he does. So I do feel like it was maybe exaggerated. However, I do want to mention, and I only know this because I was looking up some vampire makeup one time, and then my metrics and my Instagram got all like weird. So then I started getting like ads to of groups of people that actually think they're vampires.
Oh, really? Actual
Yeah.
people that really believe that they themselves are vampires.
So there are private Instagram and Facebook groups of people who think they are vampires and they live that lifestyle. What do they do?
So they
I
attack
don't know.
human beings and drink their blood.
I
Bite
don't know if
into
they
their neck.
go that far. I don't think they do.
Okay.
I don't think they do, but I think that they are they really believe that they are vampires. So they live that vampire lifestyle. You know what I mean?
Sleep
It
during
was
the
a very
day,
weird,
only up at night.
I mean, I'm assuming. I didn't look into it because I was like, why am I getting this? You know what I mean? But I thought it was interesting. So, people have that strong belief that that's the lifestyle they live, that's who they are, that kind of thing. So, yeah, in that case, I would say, it's something that was exaggerated in the past, but now it's becoming super popular, and now people actually believe that they are one. Some people, not everyone, obviously.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know these groups. If anyone's interested, just look it up yourself. I don't know these groups.
Go to Facebook. It says, I am a vampire. Yeah. Well, real or not, the U.S. Library of Congress says that vampires in general, and Dracula in particular, are the most popular literary and media figures in Western history, even surpassing Christianity's Jesus of Nazareth. So, sorry about that, Jesus. As a Catholic, I was rooting for you, but it looks like Dracula won out. So, any thoughts on that?
I find that really interesting. I mean, I don't know. I guess because Draculas and vampires can really appeal to every culture, every religion, that kind of thing. You know what I mean? So maybe that's why, there's this show that I used to watch. I'm obsessed with it. It's a very good show, and I highly recommend people check it out. It's called Face Off, and it's It's just basically these people come and they're FX makeup people and they, compete against each other. And there was this one episode
I think I may
where
have seen that once or twice.
it's a really good show. It's really, really good. And their makeup is like far better than what I can do. But I love to see it, and I get some ideas and inspiration and stuff. One of the episodes was about being a vampire from every culture. So people were coming and they were, like the challenge was to do vampire makeup from a different culture. So they had a Japanese vampire, an Indian vampire, so on and so forth. So I thought that
that's
was really interesting. It was a good episode.
That is interesting. Yeah, yeah. Now, correct me if I'm wrong, Anurada. Millennials your age really think they understand vampires probably through the very popular, like the Twilight books and movies, or Buffy the Vampire Slayer, or HBO's True Blood. And then AMC the last couple of years has had their adaptation of Anne Rice's Interview with a Vampire. So all you young people in your 30s think you know everything there is to know about vampires. Is that right?
Well, I know that I'm probably gonna lose a couple of fans here. Talking about Twilight. I don't want to count Twilight because I feel like it was just way like too sexual, too like, hey, we're young and we're in high school and let's just, be nasty.
But it was about vampires, though. I mean, you got to.
It was about vampires, but like I did not feel like it did it justice. And it's weird because they chose a very good actor, to be the main vampire. But I just feel like,
he was good.
Vampires, from what they are, right? There are some things that are, I guess, skewed. You know what I mean? Like when I think of a vampire, I do think that the vampire is a seductor. He has to be able to seduce. He has to be able to, because he's not allowed to come into your house. You have to invite him in, right?
That is one of the rules. Yeah.
Exactly.
That's
Him
one
or
of the
her.
rules.
Him or her.
Him or her.
But
yeah.
I do think, what's this, Underworld? Is that it? I do think that that look of them being super young looking, them being very attractive, I do associate that characteristic with the vampire. Because how are you going to seduce if you look like a back of a shoe? You know what I mean? Like you have to be very attractive, and they, their skin is really nice and like all that kind of stuff. So I do kind of connect that, but at the same time, I think it's weird because I do also see the other side of things like Nosferatu and those kinds of things where,
where it's a monster, really looks like a monster,
very unattractive. So,
the whole idea of the suave sort of vampire kind of started with that old Universal movie from the late 30s that was like you were doing, Bela Lugosi, because he shows up and he's in a tux with a cape, and it's just like, good evening. And it's just like, wow, I want to have sex with you, man. So, but anyways,
bite me anytime.
Exactly. And after that, it's just like, we never looked back. We really, like, vampires are always like young and hot, and nobody is ever,
honestly, that is the main characteristic. You know what I mean? Just because you have to follow the rules, right? Like the inviting rule. Are you going to invite someone who looks like Nosferatu? No. But I do find it interesting. I want to see the new one just because he still manages to seduce even though he looks like shit. He does still manage to do that. So I do want to look at that. I only saw the trailer, so I don't know much about it.
Well, I think it's more, like you said you saw the Bram Stoker's Dracula.
Yeah.
So he's able to, there's a few times they show him as a monster, hanging upside down and what have you. But he's able to transform himself to look like he looked when he was mortal at different ages. Like he's an old man, or when he does seduce. What's her face? I can't remember her name. The actress Winona Ryder.
Yeah.
Yeah. Then he's like, then he's in his, cool, sexy kind of like a great outfits and stuff like that. And
but that's what makes me think, like, is their true face is the ugly one, and then do they just drink the blood, and then they rely on the blood to be able to change the way they look? Are they just shapeshifters? You know what I mean? There was another vampire movie where this guy, he willingly gets bitten by a vampire. Actually, I think it's called Dracula. I don't know. He willingly gets bitten by a vampire to be able to save his kingdom, because his kingdom's being attacked. And so if he
that must be one of those, sort of kind of revisions things. You're going to talk about this in a minute, of Vlad the Impaler, but back in Transylvania, right? It's one of the
and that guy was hot as hell. And when he became a vampire, he was even more hot. And another characteristic of a vampire is they have to be, good in, intimacy. You know what I mean? Because that's their whole thing. They're sexy. They're good with intimacy. They're good with all that stuff. They're seductors. They speak, if you're a man, they speak to women. Like, if they're a woman, they're very dominant. That's the characteristic I've seen.
Yeah. So, in the Anne Rice books. So Anne Rice passed away recently, but she wrote a lot of vampire books. The first one being Interview with a Vampire, but she also wrote a lot of erotic fiction. So she was really into that too. So, and then it crossed over, because like an Interview with a Vampire, people want to be vampires. When they figure out all the stuff that they can do, they're like, make me a vampire, please.
Bite me, somebody, bite me.
Exactly. So, which is what you said. So even though these folklore legends go back millennia, most people hadn't even heard the word vampire until 1897 with the publication of that book. So, Anuradha, can you fill in the blanks for us from there?
I can. So there was this Irish-born guy named Bram Stoker. And even though he got his master's degree in math, we all know you can't do anything. Just kidding.
Shit, why did I do that? I'm gonna write vampire books instead.
Fuck that. He became a very successful business manager, kind of for a top theater in London's West End theater scene, similar to Broadway. But what he really wanted to be was a writer of gothic horror novels and short stories. So how do you go from math to that? Nobody knows. Like, this four is seductive.
Gothic horror. There's something about calculus that just draws you to the supernatural. So,
so he was actually moonlighting, and running a theater by day and then writing at night. So the guy was busy. And at one point he stumbles across all these ancient legends about blood-drinking demons in Transylvania and Romania, which very few people of his time had ever heard of. So that was actually a golden nugget he had uncovered. And he starts putting this book together, which would eventually be called Dracula, or Dracula. And this was not a quick knockoff for him. He actually meticulously researched the book for 7, long years as he was writing it, which, I mean, he did math, so he's probably a very patient person. Probably was like, this will be worth it.
He wrote it with a calculator.
Yeah.
So was Dracula is Count Dracula, the featured person in his book, is he a real person or did Stoker just make him up?
Ooh, so this is actually where it gets good. So
Okay.
Bram Stoker's Dracula was based on a real king in the mid 1400s whose official name was Vlad III. And he became famous successfully defending what is now Romania, Hungary, and Transylvania against the Muslim Ottoman Empire. So supposedly he was a Roman Catholic Christian, but he ironically gained his fame for his unchristian brutality against his enemies. So it sounds similar to the movie that I was explaining about, that
It
really hot
does.
guy.
It
It sounds
does.
a little similar. But
Yeah.
anyways, his soldiers would drive a spear vertically through their victims' bodies and then display many
Ouch.
thousands of these
Ouch.
corpses for many years across his borders. So this horrified even his own citizens, but he believed it was a deterrent for future attack, which it actually generally was. I mean,
I would sort of think so. It's like,
If you
do I
see,
really want to go down that road? I don't know. I don't think I'm going there.
yeah, if you see your neighbor kind of just hanging there like that, I'm pretty sure you're
Right.
like, yeah, I'm not gonna.
Skewered on
know.
a spear. It's like,
Yeah, like little human kebabs. Like,
Can't we
Um,
conquer something else?
but let's just go do something else.
Yeah, exactly.
But his unbelievable cruelty became known throughout Europe, and he was called Vlad the Impaler or Vlad Dracula. Now, Dracula in Romanian means either dragon or devil. And I actually find it really funny because so I was teaching English in Barcelona when I lived in Barcelona.
Oh, really?
And most of my students were a lot younger. One of my but the one student that I had, he was a lot older, and I remember he was like, "So where are you from?" And I was like, "I'm from Pennsylvania." He's like, "Pennsylvania?" He's like, "Oh, home of the Dracula." I'm like, "Nah, dude, I wish." It was just funny because, he said he was thinking, I was like, "Are you thinking of Transylvania?" And then he just like looked at me like, "What the hell are you talking about, lady?" But I had to explain the
What you
difference.
talking about? What you talking about?
It was just funny. It was a funny story.
Actually, the German half of my family is from Transylvania.
Damn, really?
Yeah, really it
Well,
is.
Dad,
And
you just keep getting more and more interesting.
yeah, I know. You'd think I would, and I'm not sexy. So, I mean, obviously I broke that rule. But my grandmother would say, my Grandma Helsley would say she never heard of vampires in her life. Like she lived just like miles away from the castle that supposedly Vlad lived in. She said, I never even heard of a vampire before. I mean, we told her
Holy
about
crap.
it. And so it's like, okay, well, but she wasn't like super literate or anything like that. It's just, but it's
That's
not,
wild.
apparently it just wasn't really a household word, at the turn of the century or whenever she was there. But, okay. So you make the
Interesting.
point that Prince Vlad Dracula is not the nicest guy in the Middle Ages. So how does he become a vampire?
Well, historically, he doesn't. So this is where our friend, Mr. Stoker, exercises some dramatic license in his book. Because again,
Okay, gotcha.
He needed some excitement from his mathematical life. So he's like, dream up this crazy shit.
Geometry wasn't doing it for me, man.
I can't take it anymore. The vampires in ancient legend lived secretly and unorganized in the woods, but Stoker felt he needed a big historical villain to bring his book to life. So he actually made Evil Prince, or King Vlad, his main character. Thus, Count Dracula in the book was born out of our boy, Bram's typewriter. So how Vlad actually becomes a vampire is sketchy in the book, but he hangs out in his dilapidated castle for 400 years, feasting on the local population. But he basically overfishes the area and there wasn't much left. So in 1890, he decides to make a move to London, where there are millions of new necks to bite, and that is where the book begins.
Aha. Okay. So that's creepy. But now, am I correct that, okay, we talked, Mr. Stoker 7 years of research on the Dracula book, but he never even visited Transylvania once.
That's actually correct. That's what the facts indicate. So London is over 1,500 miles to Transylvania.
Right.
And even in 1890, yeah, when they had trains to get to Transylvania, would still have probably taken a couple weeks, just one way. So because his famous book launched the modern vampire genre, every minute of Bram Stoker's life has been examined by innumerable historians. They know when he was potty trained, for example. Like, they did their research. An expensive and time-consuming trip to Transylvania, there and back, would almost certainly have appeared in his records, but they don't. So it's almost certain he never visited there.
And, the average reader, I mean, he wrote it in English. He was Irish himself, as you said. Probably wouldn't know anything about Transylvania to begin with themselves. So they wouldn't know if he was making it up or, what have you.
Yeah.
Okay. So that's a good point. So there's no way he's going to give up his, blow all his vacation time on, a trip to everybody's favorite vacation destination, Transylvania. just love those old creepy castles.
Transylvania.
But my question is, even if he didn't go, could Mr. Bram really have made up all this stuff by himself? And I know 7 years of research, reading ancient books in the London Library, in Latin, Greek, Hebrew, whatever. But in the first act of his book, like you said, Dracula decides to move to London. And, London out of every place. And so I was thinking, do we think that Stoker had the opportunity to actually interview a vampire in London who had sort of done something similar? Because, obviously he lived there himself, so he could get a lot of great detail about, local color and things of that nature. But do we think that the authenticity of the novel comes from an actual vampire?
I mean, I feel like there is always some truth to like everything. Like there's truth to like a fantasy. There's truth, you know what I mean? Maybe it's like very, very loose, like very loosely based, but we don't know.
Yeah,
right?
every
There's
legend has some basis in fact, right?
Exactly.
Isn't that what they say? Even
exactly.
like Bigfoot or, the Loch Ness Monster or whatever.
Yeah, you know what I mean? It comes from somewhere, right? So
Right.
just this whole aspect of blood and blood being the the life path, like it gives you life, it's so nourishing, right? Now you look at a vampire, right, and the vampire basically needs the blood to live, needs the blood to basically keep looking the way he or she does, based on whatever vampire literature you've read. That's what some of them have said, right? So you take that, right? You don't know where he could have just taken that from, right? Maybe there was a friend who used to drink blood because he thought that, it would make him a certain way, right? Maybe.
Well, there's also vampire bats, and I don't know if they came before or after the book, but I mean, they bite living things and suck their blood. I mean, that's what they do. So he could have said, you know what if that was a guy who, whose diet was 100% blood? Maybe that's why they call it a vampire bat. Maybe it was just called, a bat before.
But you know what I mean? So that's what kind of makes me feel like there was maybe some potential truth, right? Very, very loosely. And he took that and kind of ran with it. You look at some of the most amazing stories of our time, right? Harry Potter, where'd that come from, right? What was J.K. Rowling's inspiration there? It came from maybe something that was real or real to the person, right? And then they took it and kind of made it something else. That's what I feel, at least.
Mm-hmm. Well, and then there's another theory that Bram Stoker was actually himself a vampire. And rather than keep it, a secret, which is basically how these guys, they're hiding in plain sight, right? They pretend to be something and then at night they sneak off and kill people. But maybe he was like, I'm just going to write this story about myself and everybody's going to think it's fiction. And I'm going to make a lot of money.
I mean, that's interesting. I haven't heard of that theory before. Is it completely out there? Maybe not, right?
I mean, it's everybody says everything on the internet, but so I just stumbled across it. So I was like, I hadn't really thought of that before. Yeah. What if he is a vampire?
Or maybe he really wanted to be. Maybe he had thought of the whole idea of a vampire and was like, man, I really wish that I was a vampire. Let me write about it. Too
bad he died at 60, so he wasn't exactly immortal, but yeah.
So, you never know. You know what I mean?
Yeah. So one other scandalous thing about our boy Bram, he publishes Dracula in 1897, and it does okay in sales, and it gets decent reviews, and that pays some of the bills. But he didn't get rich from it, and he wrote a dozen other novels in his lifetime, which I don't think anybody remembers the names of those other ones. I mean, Dracula was really the only thing he wrote that sort of has lived till our time. But in a very short period of time, the book finds new life in what was then the new medium of silent movies. So there are silent movie adaptations. So he dies in 1912, I think, Bram Stoker. And there's already, they start stealing his stuff. So their very first silent movie adaptation is 1913. And then there's several others after that. And of course, you even mentioned, there's like the 1920 version or 22 or something, Nosferatu. That's like the most famous old version, which is really creepy. And that's the vampire that doesn't wear a tuxedo. He looks more like a gargoyle, or something like that. But and so it's just, I don't know. It's kind of like when we remember we talked about earlier in the year, we talked about The Great Gatsby, written by F. Scott Fitzgerald, and that he sort of died in poverty. And then after he dies, they start making all these movies and Broadway plays and things like that. And supposedly somebody got money, but in Bram Stoker's case, there really wasn't any copyright protection in the early 20th century. So, his wife, his kids, his grandkids, I mean, nobody's making money off, Twilight, or Interview with a Vampire or anything like that, except the people who actually wrote those things.
Yeah.
Which is a drag.
I mean, I just feel like it's bullshit. You know what I mean? Like, it's terrible. Right? But who do you hold accountable? Like, no one is going to hold these people accountable because there wasn't a rule set in place for that time. Like legally they could do whatever, but it's like,
well, there might have been rules, but but you have to have enforcement. So, like China is always stealing stuff. And what are we going to do? Send over the army,
No, but at that time, right? There was nobody to go and be like, oh, you're stealing his idea in 1913 or 1920 or whatever, right? So I just feel like it's bullshit. A little bit of credit would have been great. I would hate to be his relative and be like, fuck, man, I could be rich as hell, because my grandfather created this, my great-grandfather created this whole monster, this whole series, this whole amazing creature, and I'm not getting a single dime. Like, I would hate to be his relative. Like, it would suck. Like, and then you see, like, more and more stuff come out, also taking his idea. That's terrible. I would hate that.
Well, I should tell you that I've done my best to protect the copyright and the IP of this podcast. So if this does become a $1 billion tentpole franchise someday, I hope our children and great-grandchildren will be taken care of.
I hope so as well. And if I see another podcast with a, middle-aged white man and an Indian girl, I'm a freak out.
Just Abbott and Costello, basically. We should change our names. So that, that sort of wraps up. Do you have any last thoughts on the character of Dracula, Vlad the Impaler, vampires in general, or Bram Stoker? I mean, it's all you, girl. Sum it up for the audience.
Well, I feel like Bram Stoker should really, really be given the credit he deserves, just because, I mean, he can't do anything with it now, but you know what I mean.
Well, they give him,
created,
he gets it in the credits. I mean, Coppola even put it in the title of the film, Bram Stoker's Dracula.
No, I think that's perfect, but I think he needs more than that. I think
a fat check would be
created.
I'm sure the grandchildren would love to have a fat check.
Yeah, like he created this amazing creature, right? Like one of my favorite makeups to ever do is a vampire makeup. And I just think it's like vampires as a whole. I just think they're so like multifaceted.
Is it like putting white or real pale type makeup? Is that kind of what it, and then you've got the teeth.
I did make myself a little bit lighter, but I just really got rid of all my impurities, like anything that was on my face that was like, I just, kind of made it very, very smooth, I just love the vampire. I love like because it's you know what I mean? I just feel like it's so subjective what a vampire can look like, what a vampire should look like. But the way I imagine a vampire, I imagine someone's like very powerful, with supernatural powers, sexy beyond belief, like.
Well, what was your attire? So you do whatever with your face. What were you actually wearing? I mean, were you wearing a formal...
At that time, I was trying to save some money, so I just kind of grabbed anything. Like, I think I was wearing like
blue jeans and a t-shirt,
like a half vest. Like, I think I was wearing like a black half vest, and I popped like the collar up. You know what I mean? But at the same time, like, you know what I mean. Now, if I would dress like vampire, I would probably wear leather. I would probably wear something very fitted, very leather, because a vampire woman is very, very sexy, very dominant, very kind of, I want what I want and I'm going to get it. You know what I mean? And I just think that that's what's like so, I guess, so attractive as a female vampire, but as a male vampire, they are naturally, not necessarily, I want what I want and I'll get it, but they're more like, people keep coming to me because I'm so hot kind of thing. They're very like smooth, very seductive, but they also know how to appeal to the female, because they basically convert her, right? They convert like you get converted to become a vampire when you get bitten. That's also another version of vampire. So they're so multifaceted, and like everyone's just kind of coming up with their own version. And I just think that's what's so attractive of the vampire, so attractive of that whole creature. And he created that. You know what I mean? I think it's fantastic. I think that
everybody pretty much follows the rules that he sort of set down. Now, he would say probably, well, I didn't make up the rules. They're in the legends, but that original book, that's the play. I mean, everybody's using it. I was just watching, rewatching the old film with Brad Pitt and Tom Cruise interview with the vampire.
Yeah.
And they just right down to the everything, sleeping in coffins, the whole bit.
But I'm very curious also, because where did these things come from, right? Because maybe that is where the whole inspiration is. Maybe those scriptures or whatever he found that he researched were actually a vampire's life that he had written out.
They go back so far. Literally thousands of years, like ancient Mesopotamia and things like that. So it's so hard to, it's like the Bible. Is it true or not? I don't know. Who wrote it? We don't know. Same thing. But I don't know. Well, anyways, hopefully we've had a great conversation here for our listeners and thought-provoking stuff. And happy Halloween, everybody.
Happy Halloween, everyone! Have a good one, yay!
Please follow or subscribe to Scandal Sheet on your favorite pod platform. And share it with all your friends. We'd also love it if you'd leave us a shameless, over-the-top rave review on Apple Podcasts especially. That helps us build audience. And we would really appreciate it if you could support us on Patreon, where you can enjoy premium bonus content for less than the price of a cup of coffee at Starbucks. Just go to patreon.com/scandalsheet. Also, we want to hear from you. You can reach us online at Facebook or X, formerly Twitter, LinkedIn or TikTok, or just send us an email to scandalsheetpod@gmail.com. See you next time on Scandal Sheet!
Copyright 2025. Thad Halkley Media, LLC, all rights reserved.